Hello everyone! In this video I will be painting a scene from the Bridgerton Netflix series presenting my favorite character, Penelope Featherington, melancholically looking outside her window. This scene happens in the second episode of third season after her secret is revealed to the society. But I am not going to reveal more in case you do not know this series. The second half of the third season is going to be released this week, so I felt inspired to paint something related to this story. On the screen you can see what the scene looks like in the series. If you are new here, you should know that I usually draw and paint animals and nature, not really people. So this was a challenge for me. Of course, I can draw a person, but I am not proficient in it, and certainly I have never painted a person with watercolor. This scene is particularly difficult because her face is on a weird angle with heavy shadows and half of the face is covered by her hand. As you might know, a hand is another subject that people usually struggle with, so to be honest, I was a little bit anxious of how it will turn out with watercolor. I had some troubles with the face from the beginning. Her eyes were very hard for me to draw and I am not happy with how they turned out. But since I was drawing my sketch directly on the paper that I was going to paint on, I didn't want to use too much eraser. That would destroy the paper, so unfortunately I had to start painting with what I had. It is just a work in my sketchbook and my main focus was practicing watercolor, so I didn't bother to sketch on another piece of paper and then transfer it to the watercolor paper. I started with the face and hands, covering them with a fleshy color that I mixed from diluted yellow ochre and a tiny part of some red. The most lit spaces I left uncovered. My plan was to use a lot of layers of heavy diluted colors. For the hair, I firstly used a layer of Aquarius orange, which is a very intense orange because there is some very bright orange light. The further down I went, the more burnt umber I added, as her hair are much darker there. By the way, don't forget to like this video and maybe consider subscribing. And also, I am very curious if you are also waiting for the final episodes of the third season, so please let me know. I also wonder who is your favorite character. Returning to the painting, all elements of the background, the wall, curtains, window frame, are in very similar cream colors, so I painted them with the same paint that I used for the skin. I didn't bother with any details, I just used some lines to indicate the shapes of the objects. There are some very pale green and blue colors outside, so I used very diluted paints to mark them. And then I started adding more and more color to the face and hands. I was mostly using red, the base color mixed with tiny amount of magenta or purple and violet, and also tiny amounts of blue. The paints that I am using are Roman Szmal Aquarius that I have recently got for my birthday, and my old paints Talents Van Gogh, which are student grade. To let the face dry, I started working on the dress. I changed the color significantly simply because I had no idea how to paint this color. It is a shiny material in a weird color that I would call pearl. Now, looking at it from the distance, it seems to be very similar to the background colors, so perhaps I should have used the same color as for the skin, but with a touch of yellow. However, I was afraid that adding yellow would make this dress color too warm, while it is colder and lighter than the skin. So I decided not to worry about the original color and changed it a little bit by using magenta and blue. For hair shadows, I was mostly using burnt umber, diluted for lighter shadows and more concentrated for darker ones. I tried to follow the shapes of the hair. The face got dry and I could slowly start adding more intense shadows. For the parts connecting the totally white parts with the parts in the shadow, I'm using the most intense colors, like Aquarius orange and cherry red. Those are only tiny spots of color to connect light with shadow. After adding each spot of color, I was softening the edges with clean brush and some water. Therefore, even though at first many spots seem intense, they were quickly blended with previous layer and did not look harsh at all. It was a very time-consuming process. The colors were much lighter after drying, so I had to add more and more layers to slowly build up the shadows. After many layers, I have noticed that the paper is starting to lose its integrity a little bit. I suppose it is not visible in the final painting, but there is a limit of those layers. The paper from my sketchbook is 40% cotton, so I suppose 100% cotton would handle much more layers. To be fair, I had already irritated the paper while erasing the initial sketch 2 or 3 times, so I was not surprised that it wasn't performing the best on the face. Finally, I added the darkest shadows on the dress and hair, and I added final details like little curly hair on her face. Somehow I lost the footage of finishing the background and adding jewelry, so unfortunately this is where this video ends. I really hope that you enjoyed watching me paint Penelope. If you like this series, don't forget to let me know who is your favorite character. See you in the next video. Bye bye!